So welcome to the Ethical Leadership live session. We are now into our graduate level leadership course. This is the first module of that course that we will be diving into over the next 3-4 months. And I hope you've been enjoying the content that you are finding on the CLI. I appreciate also that Eric was checking with you all that it's working well, that you're doing reading a resource and then hitting next and watching another video from me and then hitting next. And I'm hoping that you're finding it easy to move through the ethical leadership module. If you have any questions or concerns, please reach out to Eric or myself at any time. We want to make sure that you are able to access all the resources and be able to enjoy this module. All right, I'm going to move on to the next slide. So today I want to do a little review and check in around the CLI. And I wanted to pass along to you 3 more models that I use and have found helpful when I'm thinking about ethical leadership and to support my own ethical leadership. We're going to make sure you have time in small group to do some dialogue and to dive into some ethical scenarios. We'll take a little time to debrief and then talk about next steps. So as you went through, and I'm hoping you all have been able to go through the Community Leadership Institute module on ethical leadership. And I want to just point out before you come to the live session in each of our different modules, ethical leadership, overcoming challenges, strategic planning, motivational leadership, storytelling, developing partnerships, the other electives, you want to have read and watched the materials before you come to the live session. I know sometimes that can be difficult, but it's a good incentive, a good nudge to get you ready for the live session and to take advantage of it. So you will have noticed that one of the key components of the ethical leadership module is recognizing our brains are limited. They do not like thinking with complexity. They miss things. They have, and also limitations around our problem solving and decision making. So we need to remember that about ourselves. We think, oh, this is a problem. Oh, I know what the solution is right away. And so how do we create a pause in our decision making to say, maybe there are things that I haven't considered. Have I asked different people and gotten a wide variety of perspectives? Have I checked the limitations of my decision making? And have I figured out strategies to overcome those limitations? So that's number 1. 2 is to have a personal code of conduct that you know well, that it is posted somewhere, or you, as you brush your teeth, you recite it to yourself so that it becomes a core component of our decision making. And as well, we want to do that for our teams. We will quickly be running along and trying to make decisions, and we may not be considering our guiding principles, our code of conduct. You've seen how the IRX CSP team models so beautifully the use of the guiding principles and really reminding us until that we can repeat them quickly and always consider, how are we fostering inclusion? How are we practicing integrity? How are we showing and modeling care and consideration? And when we get into a decision, we have to think, how are we doing on modeling care and consideration? Another question that we can ask again and again and again, am I practicing moral courage? And what does that look like? Am I doing what is right, even if it's not easy? Again, bringing as many people into your decision making as possible. I always feel that my curriculum is better, my decisions are better when I have others that are checking my work. And looking for, as we create decisions, is looking for the solution where it is an and, a both and. And so I review all these, but you have a lot more material in the CLI to dive into these 6. And I hope that they become core components in your decision making. And of course, you now know a lot about the mandorla and how do we look for solutions where we're caring for the planet and for the humans that are upon it. How we're making sure that our organization is successful, but the people are successful as well, and so on. So back to your code of conduct. That is your upcoming assignment. I'm looking forward to reviewing in your personal leadership plan. You read in Worst Enemy, Best Teacher that it can be considered as a symbol of your shield, that it protects both you and others as well. It regulates your power. We want to have no more than 5 to 7 attributes in your code of conduct so you can remember them. Human beings have a hard time remembering something over than 7. That is why in the United States, our phone numbers are no more than that there's 7 numbers. You have those area codes now, so that we would always say that when I was young, because you really couldn't call outside of your call area. But now we have to remember more numbers. And it's difficult, so that's why our phones do it. But it used to be that your phone number was 7 because that's the number that people could remember. Our code of conduct is necessary for long-term success. You will think of leaders who have cut corners, and you will think of leaders that have stayed by their code of conduct. It's fascinating to me that the leaders, the Martin Luther King Jr.'s, the Nelson Mandelas, had a strong code of conduct, and it protects both them and others and supports that long-term success. And you are going to be including this in your personal leadership plan in your worksheet. I want to remind you, you will be submitting your PLP worksheet again. You are going to use, please use the PLP worksheet to submit each of your sections of your personal leadership plan. So I have read your introductions and I have given you comments. Please leave those comments in your introduction or turn on track. Well, I need the comments. They really help me to be able to remember what we're working on. And you can also turn on track changes. That helps me as well to see, Charbon has added a new section around her latest work. Or Jack has added a part on his early years. So that helps me. If you would please leave your comments in so that I can be most effective for all of you. And then some of you are using Google Drive, and we've made it a working document where I'm going to come in and add comments and suggestions, and you're making changes. If you're doing that, which is wonderful, you don't need to. If you do, please continue to upload your PLP worksheet for each section. And would you just remind me that you have, that we're working in the Google Drive. I have a list of all of you, but I'm worried I'm going to miss one, and I want to make sure I'm doing that correctly. So thank you so much. All right. We're getting, someone is, we are getting some extra. There we go. Thank you, Eric. So I want to make sure I'm connecting with all of you. I want to give you all of that information, but let's talk about the code of conduct so far. So in the chat, just as an icebreaker, what are you noticing as you're creating your code of conduct? What are values that you are saying you must stand by? And you can even pick just one or two. And why don't we add in the chat, what are values or core values that you are saying must be in my code? And we can add those in the chat. I'm noticing you're already up and on it. There's the chat. Wonderful. I love it. Equality, transparency, loyalty, respect, empathy, lots of empathy, generosity, and integrity, inclusivity, honesty, kindness. These are wonderful. Notice the themes that we have here. And many of these are considered as Maruna was bringing up in the book Moral Intelligence, these universal principles of respect, and honesty, accountability. Wonderful. Confidentiality. Yes, yes. Kindness. Thank you. These are wonderful. I want to go back to our slides. What have you noticed? Let's see, is critical for an organizational code of conduct? I suspect many of these will be the same, but yeah. Empathy, selflessness. These are beautiful. Accountability. Yes, given. Accountability can be a key component in an organizational code. Confidentiality. Many of you are working with clients and allowing them to feel safe. Accountability, courtesy. I love that. Yeah, I was just working with an organization doing some consulting last week, and they have professional courtesy in their code. There we go. Transparency. Wonderful. Lots of transparency. Open-mindedness. Oh, these are fantastic. Thank you. Aligning actions to our words, a key component of integrity, isn't it? Is what does that mean? So I love this. Oh, okay. One last. Oh, these are so good. This wonderful list. So as many of you, some of you may want to save this list. I'm looking here and saying, here are a wonderful compilation of values that you may want to consider for both your personal codes and your organizational codes. And last, how are we all doing? What are we noticing on how we've been implementing our own guiding principles so far? What have you noticed? It's exciting. I would agree. One of the things I just want to point out that I've really been appreciating is on Pronto, how you have been modeling the guiding principles, treating one another with practicing integrity. Yes. We're running so smooth. It's great. Yeah, we're forming as a group right now, aren't we? You can see how they're helpful in the long run. That's wonderful, Pema. I know in the beginning, he'd be like, why do they keep talking about those guiding principles? We're trying to model something. And thank you. You can see that we're working to practice equality and diversity. Yeah, working on inclusion. That's what I'm noticing, that there's a real work on fostering inclusion on Pronto. This is great. Yes. Oh, good. So thank you, Natty. It's challenging because now I'm having to consider, am I really applying them? I find that as well. That's the challenge when we put guiding principles or a code of conduct in place. It calls us to a new level of accountability. And I notice sometimes I'll watch my brain. It's like, oh, what are those? I don't want to remember those. And so being kind to myself to watch how our brains will try to avoid that conflict. So thank you for bringing that up. We're engaging everyone all the time with the guiding principles by creating a respectful environment. Thank you. Oh, this is wonderful. And Sarah's thing, I keep questioning myself and checking my decisions now. Yay. That's the hope. That's the hope for all of us. Our brains, as you notice, love to go fast. They love to be able to go, okay, what am I going to do? I'm going to do this and not have to think. So what we're doing is engaging our slow thinking brain. It's hard work, but a great discipline. So thank you all for noticing that and passing that along. All right, I want to give you a little more. Thank you all for sharing this. This is another model. It's called the alignment model. This comes out of the work of Doug Lennox. Maruna wonderfully posted on Pronto this morning about the book Moral Intelligence. And this is the way that he likes to describe this work around ethical leadership. And so I want to pass this one along for you as well. We have our ideal selves, the principles, the values, and the beliefs that we want to embody. And we may think, I'm an ethical leader. I have a code of conduct. I'm a nice person, which we all understand and feel. And at the same time, I don't know about you all, but there's days and hours where I'll notice myself doing something and, it breaks my heart. I'm like, I was completely impatient with that person, or I took a shortcut, or I wasn't as honest as I want to be. The real self shows up. And a way that we can practice to become more impeccably ethical leaders is to watch both holding our ideal selves and watching how our real selves are doing. And then using strategies, out of kindness and compassion for ourselves that help support alignment. So we have our code of conduct. It is a shield. It is there actually to support us. It's not, good people have codes of conduct. This is a way that I can protect myself and others, that I don't look back and regret things. We're going to, in our next module, we're going to create a vision. Visions are critical when we are working on being visionary leaders, but they also help our alignment. Who do I want to be in the world? What is the kind of world I want to bring into being? Our goals, and we're going to be doing goal setting in our strategic planning section. And we'll be working on those. Those also help alignment. It's like, what action am I going to take? I know this is the goal that I am working towards, and that helps me to align between what I ideally see of myself and who I want to be. And again, you notice we do a lot of reflection in this leadership development program. We're always asking you, what are you noticing? How are you doing? Just to continue to watch, how am I acting? So when we strengthen these alignment muscles, the ideal can become real. So I pass that along. One of the things you'll notice that, at least for me, and I've seen with other clients and fellows like yourself, is conceptual frameworks help me to then center myself when I'm wanting to act ethically. It's like, how is my ideal and real self? What are the three limitations of my brain? So you'll notice I'll keep providing these to you. Another comes out of the work of Ronald Heifetz, Harvard professor, and he created the book called Adaptive Leadership. Pass this along to you as well. Pieces of our leadership, both formal leadership and informal, are technical problems, things we do every day. They're easy, not even easy, but they're step by step. You know that, at the end of each month, you might have to review financial reports. You have a strategy for that. You go, I do this, then I do this, then I do this. I pass it along to the controller and we're done. So we have certain things that are technical problems. Our fast thinking brain loves those. But we also, when we're leading, we have adaptive challenges that we need to address. And again, this frame, having a conceptual framework of looking at a problem and saying, is this a technical problem? Or is this an adaptive challenge that I'm being given? Is it a new situation that demands that I engage my slow thinking brain, that I assess the problem, and then I have to come up with a new combination of responses to address it? Heifetz reminds us that in these adaptive challenges, we really want to be working with a team. All right, coming down. So play with me here. I'm going to pull up the chat. So we just talked about a technical problem is reviewing monthly budgets. And that's one of them. That would be a technical problem. And I've given you a list here so that we can kind of play. Now come up here so I can look at the chat. All right. Which of these, if you look at the numbers, which of these might you say are technical problems, things that we can do step by step? Is dealing with interpersonal conflict, does that feel like a technical problem or an adaptive challenge? How about recovering from, oh, I clicked, it told you what the next one would be. So which, if you look at this list, what would you say are the technical problems? You can put the numbers in the chat. I was trying to be tricky. There we go. So we've got 1, 3, okay, 5 and 6. Yes, yeah. These are great. 6 and 7. Yeah. 1 definitely. 6, we're all agreeing that 6 is. So I'm going to click on that one. Here we go. Yeah. Yeah. 5, yeah, 1, 5, and 6. 7, we're feeling like 7 could be one as well. Yes, exactly. In some ways, maybe 8. We're getting some, we're doing a poll here. I'm looking at everyone. Yeah, this is great. And 7. All right, so great noticing, because some of these, notice that some of us are thinking, well, that feels like a technical problem. But it could be also an adaptive challenge. So for example, some of us chose 3 and saying recovering when a funding source declines to renew a commitment. If it's a major funding source and we've really been relying on it, that could be a huge adaptive challenge on how we move in the organization. We've seen that, 10 times before, and we figured out, yeah. Yes, thank you for Eric was asking. Yeah, so USAID is often a funding source for different international programs, something great for everybody to know. And they always ask for monitoring and evaluation reports. And those of you who do those know that once you've got it figured out, you do step by step by step, providing them the particular log frames, and they have different things that they ask for, different reports. Yeah, that's great. Ordering the papers on our desk. Yes, very much a technical problem. But what is tricky for us is sometimes, and that's why I put number 7 in here, is something that looks like it should be a technical problem. We bring the employee into our office, we do the performance review, and all of a sudden the employee starts crying and tells us about a really difficult situation they're having at work or home. The technical problem becomes an adaptive challenge. And so how do we use this next model that, or next, I would say, yeah, model or analogy that Ronald Heifetz brings us? He says, when we are working with adaptive challenges, we want to practice self-awareness by seeing ourselves both dancing on the dance floor. So there you are with that employee, and they are in tears, and you're hearing about a very difficult situation, and you may start to feel uncomfortable, is to be still fully engaged with your employee, and at the same time up on the dance floor going, wow, Deetra's feeling a little uncomfortable right now. This wasn't what I expected, so How can I recenter myself? How do I stay present for this person? What leadership style am I using? And we're going to be talking about that in the coming months. And watching myself on the balcony all the same time I'm on the dance floor, madly dancing. So this is another key component of being an ethical leader, is how are we doing this process as we are in the mix. So a way to think about it is ethical situations call us to be adaptive and self-aware. So how can we be watching from the balcony when we're on the dance floor? And one of my tricks is to be asking for diverse viewpoints so I can better understand the larger situation. I am going to tell you that my brain often doesn't want to ask. It says, oh, I want to quickly just get done. I don't want to ask for viewpoints. I don't want to deal with the complexity, but I, over the years, have learned it always is worth it. And recognizing that the complexity is good for us. It's a form of training. If we think of leadership as a good practice in wrestling, and you think of people who are competitive wrestlers, the discipline and the comfort around conflict it can be very good for us. So I pass that model along to you as well. Fostering self-awareness, you've noticed this thing of saying, I'm struggling with this, or I'm trying to figure this out, is that fostering transparency. And look at how many of us, you said that transparency should be one of our core values at an organizational level. And really encouraging people to check your limited thinking. One of my little tricks, and you'll hear it a lot in our next module, is to say, tell me more. When I don't know what else to do, I say, tell me more about, or what am I missing? It can be hard, but is to notice, another thing to ask is where might my moral code be buggy? Where might I be not missing? What are others seeing in you that you might not see in yourself? And we're always better leaders when we are practicing self-awareness. I want to give you one last model. We'll play with this one more during motivational leadership, but there's some core research that's been done in the leadership field by James Kouzes and Barry Posner. It's called they've written a book called The Leadership Challenge. And one of the things they did after interviewing, I think something like 5,000 different people across the world, they came up with 5 attributes for exemplary leadership. And the very first one is to set an example, to model the way. They talk about inspiring shared vision. We'll be working on that in our next module. Encouraging others to act, motivational leadership, challenging the process. Again, as we talk about overcoming challenge, being comfortable with working with conflict, and engaging the heart. So we'll be coming back to all of these. They show up as core components in our leadership development. But I wanted to talk about this idea of modeling the way. With ethical leadership, our job is to set the example. And so what can we do to make the values easy to remember, both for ourselves and others? As Cynthia Ritchie-Terrell talked about, you can post them, add them to your emails, so make it easy for people to be models, and to consider having conversations around how are we as a team modeling. Where, and you can go down to who's cleaning the kitchen and how is that fostering equity or transparency or continuous improvement as organizational values that you might have. Adding it to your meetings, and we've talked about that, that you're discussing group values often, and checking in with the group, just like we were doing today. How are we doing? We're still forming as a group, but there may be moments where you think, wow, we are struggling right now on practicing integrity. How might we be able to do that better? And then learning at this concept of learning in public, that's one of our jobs as leaders, is to expand our public window, to talk about where I'm wrestling with a particular decision or an ethical situation, and how, just as you saw in the story of Gawain and the Green Knight in Worst Enemy, Best Teacher, that Gawain, after he's dealt with an ethical challenge, he brings it back to his team and discusses where he didn't do well, and what did work. So passing all of those along. Here's some other tips. And again, I'm adding these because this is recorded, so you can come back to this if you wish. But we want to encourage everyone to consider the complexity. So you can bring forward ethical challenges at a staff meeting and get people to play with that, and to work with that. So, here's an ethical challenge I've been thinking about. How would we handle this? So that you are just like in the martial arts tradition, where people will practice with sparring partners before they go into competition. We can do that with one another before we are dealing with a strong ethical challenge, is that we've been practicing together and strengthening those muscles. We can continue to ask, where can we get better at implementing our code of conduct? So framing in the positive, instead of what did we do wrong, which puts us into our reptilian brain. We get into fight flight, but instead it's like, how could we be even better at implementing our code of conduct? And as I said, sharing your ethical challenges. I've had some organizations, I work with a B Corp, which is an organization that really is working on both profits and planet. They put into their organizational code constant improvement. So that is something that they're always looking at. How are we improving? So that's something I want to pass along from this organization. It's called Westpaw Design. It's very innovative, working with recycled materials for pet toys, of all things. So finishing up, because I want to make sure, how are we doing? We're doing great, on time. I want to make sure you get some time in small groups. So this week, I give you this as a practice, is to, again, watching how my real self is, using the model of the ideal self and the real self, is stopping periodically and noticing what am I thinking and feeling, and what am I doing? And do my actions align with my core values? So noticing, how's my real self matching up with my ideal self? And being kind with ourselves, but noticing, wow, I'm in a lot of fear right now. I want to take a shortcut. I don't want to talk to that person. I don't want to engage in that difficult conversation. And then going back to, what is my code of conduct? Using those alignment tools to bring me back into acting more in my ideal self. Noticing, just out of kindness, again, with yourself, is, where do you forget your code of conduct? Where does your brain want you to forget your code of conduct? And how might I have strategies to remind myself to remember my ideal self? So I give you those as practice points that we can work on, and we can also work on together. All right. Oh, so here we go. We're going to practice together. We're going to be in groups of about, I think, somewhere between 4 to 5. And we are going to do some scenarios. We're going to do 2 different scenarios over a half an hour. And here is the first scenario. And this is actually based on a true story that I learned from a client. I've shifted it enough so you won't, out of honoring confidentiality. But you design a motorcycle course for a regional community park on a whim. You're an engineer, so you have the ability to design a motorcycle course, and it's accepted for a national race. You recognize as it's being built that some of the turns are very dangerous. And you are prohibited to tell anyone about the course before the race. And your brother enters. So your brother is walking into a situation where he could be in a lot of danger, but you have signed a contract saying that since you've designed this course and no one's supposed to know about it, that you are required not to share. What do you do? So that's the first one. And then we're going to give you a second one here shortly. So you design a motorcycle course. You can visualize this on for a regional community park on a whim. It's accepted to be used for a national race. You recognize that some of the turns are very dangerous and you are prohibited to tell anyone about the course before the race. And then your brother enters the race. All right, so we're going to play with that. I'm going to see. I can see Eric. I can see
Deidre,
Eric.
how many minutes are we thinking for each of these?
So let's see. So we are at 40. So why don't we give everyone, how about we give everybody 12 minutes? Is that all right to discuss this? And if it seems like an easy answer, please look again. All right. Enjoy. I will see you back in 12 minutes. Welcome back, everyone. I hope you're wrestling well. Hi. I want to give you another scenario. You're going to stay with the same group. Yeah. So that was the question. Would you tell him about how to safely navigate the race? So here's another one for you. So you guys can keep wrestling. So again, another one based on a true story. You're working with a colleague on a research project and you're putting the finishing touches on the report, and you realize an hour before this report is due that your colleague has plagiarized material. He has gone and stolen material from other sources, and that this is not original research. And your colleague is also been frequently missing work, and this would be the last straw. This would be the last thing that he would lose his job if he was found out. He gets you to promise not to tell your supervisor, but either way, if you were caught, you too would be fired. What do you do? So now you have your name on a plagiarized report, and you realize an hour before it's due and it needs to go in, that it can't get fixed. And meanwhile, your colleagues and your job is at risk. How do you handle this one? So you're going to go back in. I think that works. You've got another, we'll give you 10 minutes for this, and we'll see you all back. Go wrestle away. Welcome back, everybody. Welcome back. Did you figure it all out? I would love to. Yeah. I love Arliss gave you a thumbs up. Yeah, we got it all figured out.
This was like so interesting and so amazing, and we got some kind of questions in our heads. Can I maybe tell you about that?
Yeah. So I want to make sure we let everyone that people give room for people to share. So how about in a minute and a half?
Okay, fine. Okay.
No, you're good. You can do it right now. But if you could do it is to keep it short when you share.
Okay. So we were pretty much we were decisive about this second situation, what we would do, and basically almost the all answers were that we would tell something like that because we want to be surrounded with loyal people and everything. But I asked, like, okay, let's have another situation. Let's have the situation with our brother as a partner. because I'm not so sure that I would have the same answer for that. If we decide to be really honest with this, something in myself, and I told that in my group, tells me that I have to have the same answers for everybody. But if we are really honest, I don't know. The only question that was in my head, if that was my brother, was like, how could you do that to me? How could you do that to me? That's it.
Oh, thank you, Amra. But great example. And then we are testing our code, right? So if I have in my code equality, and watching that part wrestle with integrity and wrestle potentially with empathy, it's beautiful. Thank you for that as an example. Wonderful. Arliss.
So in our group, if the person was willing to change or to regret it, we will be apologize and help him to last minute, like to rework or be honest and tell the supervisor to give another deadline. If the person wasn't willing, we wouldn't tolerate plagiarism because it's like disrespecting everyone time and not being authentic. And we would let him be remembered for plagiarizing at the end of this day, just like in the universities or things like that.
That's great. Thank you. And notice how we want to try to figure out a solution. I noticed that you've added that we could fix the report within that last hour. I tried to create a scenario where you wouldn't be able to do that, but I'm really valuing how you're, how we as humans are working on that. Rudolph, Nigatu. Oh, can't hear you. Well, you're still on mute, my friend.
Hello, can you hear me?
Now we can hear you.
Okay. Yeah, we had what kind of talk in our the second discussion. I mean, a scenario, and we said that many of us said that we have to just tell our supervisor about the conduct that has been missed because it's about organizational code of conduct that is about transparency and trust. So we have to tell the supervisor. But some of our friends said that we have to look for another options. They said, but they haven't mentioned any of the. They haven't stated exact or specific kind of solution. But they said that we have to look at least for another options. They said that is what we had.
Yeah, that's wonderful. And notice how we're wrestling with that, right? Because potentially, as I tell, I may destroy my own career. I may lose my job, and with that, maybe my ability to provide health insurance to my family. So how to be playing with this and wrestling. Have you all noticed how your brains were like, there's got to be an answer, or we got to figure this, it's got to be a simple solution, right? And some of it is just how do we get comfortable with our heads hurting, or my head hurting. Okay, let's see who, I'm trying to do this in order, who I saw next. I think it was Vlada, I think you were next. And then
yes, we also discussed some of the questions like, why is the person missing work? Is it because he's not interested, or because he has a small child, or maybe because he has ill parents? And some brought the issue again that even our cohort, like people may have small kids, may not have electricity sometimes, not having the technical issues. And after this like sincere conversation, there are a variety of solutions. If you know that the supervisors will not care, it's one thing. If you know that they'll care, it's another thing. But then you have to try to accommodate, because each one of us has a story that we don't necessarily know it all.
Oh, Vlada, thank you. So really wrestling with excellence and compassion. And yeah, wonderful bringing up how those are wrestling and how you are playing with that. Oh, this is awesome. Okay, I'm watching hands. Avril.
Oh, thank you. was actually very just sorry for my team, because I kind of didn't know if you guys were doing it. So in my first discussion, it was actually very interesting, because we kind of agreed on, first of all, of why. I think we started questioning our ethics in that situation, or our code of conduct, because we kind of just discussing about, well, why do I even, want to put not just my brother, but why do I want to put, there are so many other participants, why do I want to put their safety and health at risk? Why did I do that? Why did I sign up for that? And why do I actually make that into a contract, official contract, so that I will be accountable for, the health and safety of so many others? And then we kind of decided, after discussion, we decided that, what we would do first is just kind of try to be very professional about it, and do, which this idea came from Mario, which is very good, was that, if we, first step that we will take would be to have a specialized safety person to kind of say exactly how dangerous are the routes, how dangerous are the corners, are they very life-threatening, or is it manageable by professional athletes? So in that case, we will have that report, we will have that analysis, and then we will continue on from them, whether we want to continue or to tell the participants, or to tell the organizers and say, we're not comfortable, it's very dangerous, we should think about it, or we should at least postpone it, and then kind of try to resolve it. And for the second situation, we just kind of agreed that it was very wrong, ethically and morally, to, steal somebody's work. And it doesn't matter if it's your teammate, or if it's somebody else, or if it's someone close, or if it's just somebody It's just the fact that how worthy is it for you to have your career or have your research report rely on you by cheating? So we just kind of all decided, well, actually majority, two of us kind of decide that we're going to report it as soon as we can, because we just don't feel comfortable about, having our career and professional depend on, somebody else's work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Abby. And you know what I'm noticing is that in each of those cases, what you all were wrestling with was, when our fast thinking brain has made decisions, it's like, oh, I'm not going to check my colleague's work because I don't have time. Or, oh, you know what? This is a technical problem for me to create a course. I'm just going to quickly create a course. And then how do we work with those long-term effects of our fast thinking brain, maybe making a decision that wasn't such a good decision? And in both of those cases, what I'm loving is you all are shifting the scenario so that you can protect your careers and report. And in both of those cases, actually in real life, that both of those, if the person had reported that what their dilemma was, or if they did, their careers were at great risk. So it's beautiful. I'm watching, because our brains are like, okay, so how do I maintain my career even though I made a mistake when I did something really quick? And we all do it. Our fast thinking brains go fast. Thank you so much. This is great. Okay, so I can do two more quickly, and I'm trying to remember. Okay, so Pema, you've been raising your hand for a long time. And you weren't off, but you came back on. So I'm going to give you credit for being in line.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. The first case, there's a code of conduct to be confidential. So we decided to break the code of conduct, whatever the punishment may be, because the people's lives are included. And we decided that directly or indirectly, we may aware them not to take alcohol, the turns are dangerous, or we can put some danger signage in where there are like dangerous turn and all. And regarding the second case, we discussed that we would request our supervisor to extend some time, because we cannot really put our friends in problem as well as lose our jobs too, because one day or other day we will be caught with this advanced technology. There's a plagiarism materials that one day or other day we will be caught, and we decided that we will request the supervisor to extend our time. But however, it will be challenging because it's a last hour. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, I'm listening to how you were all wrestling and looking for creative solutions to these challenges. It's my understanding that in the Olympics, for example, when they create different courses, they keep them secret. And so it is interesting, think about like the luge courses, and that this is, how do you work with that? And people coming in for the first time, and that things maybe haven't been designed well, is, how is that handled? So I love watching, and this is, you are all setting us up well for the overcoming challenges module that we were going to be doing next. This is great. Okay, let's see. I'm looking at Eric. Eric, how much do we have? We have time maybe for one more, do you think? Yeah, I think we're probably okay. Okay, Peckham, you were next, and then we'll
All right.
see. There's still others.
I'm thinking, especially when you're talking about how we use our brain to make decisions, it is all too easy to just say, in both cases, you keep your mouth shut because you've been asked not to reveal anything. And on the second case, you just leave it like that. If the supervisor finds out and somebody is gone, or maybe their career is gone forever. But on a second thought, have you ever been in a team that looks like so much like a family, and you believe so much that if one person is gone, that team is not going to be the same again? So it's not very easy to just say, we'll just leave it like that. You look for ways how you can rescue the situation, except if there's nothing you can do. Maybe you can even say, well, look here, man, we try, we want to do something, but as it is, there isn't nothing we can do. But to just say you leave it like that, to me, that would not be me. I will look for ways, except if I cannot find a way that we can solve that, because I wouldn't say manipulation is look like something else, but we can solve it. You have to, because that is the essence of team. I believe so much in team. You have to try, at least make an effort, and don't just leave it to the supervisor like that. Also, with the first scenario, I believe as the engineer responsible for designing the course, maybe there's some technical things you can do, and hope that the participant will read through, and they would maybe like signs that there will be some sticky curves, danger, things like that, and maybe they'll pick up that, and then in the process they will have that internalized, and as they go through the race they will adjust. That's the only opportunity you have to communicate that, because you signing up to something that you cannot divulge anything. But to sort of clear your conscience, you embed something in that course that people will see it, and then they will understand some aspect of it. That was my idea.
These are great. So looking for creative solutions. Thank you for modeling how there are different values will start fighting against each other. One of the, you're bringing up this, one of the ways that when I'm trying to stay present for ethical dilemmas is thinking about these different aspects of myself within me and allowing them to all have voice. So we have the part of ourselves that is loves our team like it's our family. We have the other part that's calling for excellence. We have the other part that is protecting us and trying to keep our careers safe. And how do we have them all being able to have voice in conversation within us? I'm going to go to Caps, and then I have some things I need to share with you before we close. So, Kapupe, do you want to share?
Okay. So As the second scenario, we considered two values conflicting, like the value of integrity and genuineness, as well as kindness and compassion. So in the second scenario, you find that you are compassionate and you are kind about your colleague's situation, such that when they are discovered that they plagiarize the report, their job is going to be at stake. And we all know the consequences of putting our jobs at stake, our families, our futures, accommodation, and everything, is going to be at stake. So in as much as you consider you are compassionate with your friend, your integrity also says no, you cannot plagiarize. So apart from putting your own job at stake, your integrity as well is saying no to you. We cannot go ahead and do that. So that's where you bring in the aspect, another value of rationality, where you have to be rational about things. You weigh two options. If we submit this report and my job is going to be at stake, it's not only my job, but also my colleague's job. And if we don't submit, we may be caught plagiarizing. It's an academic offense. So I think we came up with the conclusion that the best thing to do is not to submit. If the situation dictates that you have to report, you have to report. If you report, actually, it's also for the benefit of your friend, that next time they have to realize the importance of doing their own work, the importance of being genuine. Actually, when you report, you even talk to them and you tell them that you cannot promise them to hide such kind of a thing. It's going to serve as a lesson to them that next time they don't have to engage themselves in such kind of an activity. And it's also going to be helpful somehow to them next time. So for us, we discussed that it's better you report. When it dictates that you report, it's better you report to save your own integrity as well as your friends.
Thank you, Caps. So, and notice what we're doing is creating a new model and belief system to make this all work. And then working with that and the challenge of that as well, because in the situation from which this came is that that sharing was not going to actually, it was essentially just going to make sure that you yourself were going to lose your job as well when you report it. So it's this wrestling. This is this practice and figuring out how we move forward. I love it. I have a mini ethical dilemma, as you would all raise your hand, and I'm like, oh, but I want to hear from Ruhila. I want to hear from Susan. So thank you all for your patience. And Rania, your hand was raised for a minute, so I can feel my own. Okay, but I've also said that I'm going to stay on time and honor my commitments. So it happens in small ways at every point. And we, again, only have 5 more minutes. I want to let you know that I have office hours, which is just really fun. So I'm going to be online here at 3 p.m. Eastern. And we'll have an hour. So if you have questions or you want to come back and talk about more, we have another hour, but wanted to make sure that we make sure that everybody has time. I'm going to go back to our slides here.
Sorry, Didre, how many hours from now?
That's really a great way to do it, Arliss. Eric, can you help me with that? How many hours is it?
4.5 hours from now.
4.5 hours. Okay, just debriefed. Yeah. So yes, so 4.5 hours, you will have office hours with me. It's super informal. We bring questions, or if you just want to come and chat, we'll make sure we've got another hour together. So after this, in the discussion forum, because you can see we're all going, well, we could do this and I could do that, but what if we do, so notice what you've learned about yourself as you've discussed these scenarios. We're practicing self-awareness. Notice which values want to bubble up to the top. Which identity do you want people to associate with you? Notice some of us were saying, but my integrity is the most important thing. So what am I noticing about myself and my value system? Where do you struggle when wrestling with ethical challenges? You know, I notice for myself, my brain just goes, oh, we need a solution because I struggle with time. And what surprised you as you discussed these scenarios? What did you learn about ethical leadership as you considered these scenarios? And in the discussion forum, I hope that you will read other people's, we're asking that you read other people's posts and comment on at least 2. Let's keep this conversation going. As I said, if you had an easy answer to either of those scenarios, there's more to be revealed and more to wrestle with. So we'll look forward to reading what you share on the discussion forum. So next steps, I am going to be looking for your PLP worksheet on the CLI re-uploaded. You're going to have your revisions to your introduction and adding your code of conduct. You're also going to consider your organization's code of conduct and create a memo on recommendations how to support or improve ethical leadership in your home organization. You don't have to give it to them, but it's just a practice for you to get clarity around what you might recommend. You're always willing, of course, you have the permission to give it to them, but you don't have to feel like it's a requirement. It's just more your own practice around further diving into this topic. And then as I share insights with your peer organized discussion group, again, we're trying to practice getting multiple perspectives. So even if you would reach out to one person within your pod group, it would be great. So that you can say, here's what I'm thinking for my code of conduct. I'd love your thoughts. And so that we start to make that a lifelong practice around gaining feedback and being even better in our leadership practices. And then, as I was saying, in your post in the post-session discussion forum. All right, how am I doing? Oh, good. I have like 1 minute left. Eric, is there anything that I've forgotten? Modeling, asking for feedback.
I think you got it all. That looks really great. And, you know, as you said here on point number 3, reaching out to your pod groups, just a reminder, that is the whole point of your pod groups, is that they are there to support you and provide insight and feedback on all of your CLI coursework. You also have your alumni mentors that are there to give you feedback. They have gone through this part of the course as well, and they have great insight to give. And of course, you can always reach out to your IREX advisors. If you have questions about the platform itself and how to access these things, you can send me a message, you can send Deidre a message. And we'll also be hosting, in addition to Deidre's office hours later today, we have coffee/tea talks later this week on Thursday. So you can join those and bring your questions. That's it from me.
No, thank you so much. I appreciate that, Eric.